Holla, I'm Trump, and you're listening to Concede.
Greetings.
Hello.
Greet.
My greetings.
Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 112 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. My name is Kenny, and I go by KCCO Gamer. And joining us from Gadgetzan, New York, we have Ridiculous Hat.
My favorite dish on Thanksgiving is stuffing. Just wanted to make sure you all knew that. And it has to be made like real stuffing. It has to be put in the turkey.
Okay, and from Karazhan, California, we have Botticus.
Hi, everyone. I'm not going to say what my favorite dish is until Hat asks me.
Hey,
like he said
Botticus.
he's going to do later.
Hey, Botticus. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Okay, so one thing most of the listeners don't know is that I'm an extremely picky eater. And so my favorite dish is just a baked potato with cheddar cheese and butter. I'm very plain.
It's
very boring.
What is the shame in liking potato, cheese, and butter? There is no shame in that.
There's no shame in it. It's just like not one of the main dishes that you talk about on Thanksgiving. I usually don't eat most of the food that people eat on Thanksgiving because I'm weird.
You're just too thankful you just can't eat it, that's all. You're like, no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
Instead of the thanks, you just have all of the giving.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of giving.
Yeah.
And for me, I say thanks to everyone else who leaves the cranberry sauce because it seems like I'm the only one that eats it.
The whole berry or the jelly?
Both.
Okay.
I like both.
It's fair.
So I dig olives. Nobody eats olives too, so I'm all the sides.
Olives are so good.
I like everything. I like the dark meat. I like the pretty much everything you have for Thanksgiving. I like, especially the pumpkin pie. Ooh,
oh yeah. But olives, man, I could eat all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be a good week.
I end up eating all of them anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, Concede is in support, but a large part by you. I can't even speak today again. So thank you for listening. And if you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head over to patreon.com/CoinConcede. All right. Let's top it off with Hat. See what I did there?
Aha!
I get it. Okay.
Oh man, you're on the spot with the bumpers today.
I've added a couple of good ones. Just a couple. So, ladder status, that's what you're asking, right? Ladder status?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I've been playing my favorite deck recently over the past couple days, not Priest. It's the best deck in the meta for me right now. Because I hit Golden Priest finally on Monday. I got a bumper for this too. Yay. I've heard that sound 500 times with Priest, and that is exactly 500 too many for me. But you know what? We got there. I am now part of the All Golden Club, and that means I immediately switched over to Aggro Druid and Tempo Rogue. Blister Guy was playing Meaty's Tempo Rogue, and that deck was really, really good. It's fairly straightforward. It doesn't play any of the weirdo tech cards. It does top out of the Lich King and only plays one Cold Blood. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. And it is playing Serenite Chain Gang, which I think is one of the best cards in the standard format right now. So I really have been enjoying that. And then I've also been playing Aggro Druid, which I love because of the fast games. And also, I think it might be the best deck in the format, or at least one of the best situated, because a lot of decks just can't deal with it if you get going quickly. And the list I found is playing a King Mukla. So there have been a couple games against a Druid where I go turn 1 Enchanted Raven, turn 2 Coin King Mukla, turn 3 like Corsair, get Patches, Power the Wild. And those games are over very quickly.
What's it
Wow.
like to finish a game in under 5 minutes?
Unusual, but very pleasant. Yeah, yes, my record with I've been playing Aggro Druid for like under 90 minutes of total playtime, and I think my record with it is 11-5. Like the games are so fast. So fast. It's
I
amazing.
wish it was the same way in Wild. It doesn't seem like that in Wild. It's not as strong. Well, I mean, it's strong, but it's not. I don't know. It's very
It's
situational for
different.
me.
It's very
Yeah.
different. It like relies on like its death rattles and stuff to generate its board presence instead of just generating a board presence, hope it doesn't get dealt with, and if it does, then hope that the second board presence of living mana is good enough.
Well, in
That's why you
Wild,
throw the death rattle on there with the 2/2s and stuff. So
yeah, well, in Wild you have
it's
to deal 59. You don't have to deal 30. You have to deal 30 twice. Because
yeah.
you don't have to deal with Reno Jackson standard. The defensive tools are a lot less effective, and you don't have to deal with Sludge Belcher. You don't have to deal with Reno. You don't have to deal with Excavated Evil or Light Bomb either. The best clears you're likely to see are going to be Embrace Circle. Shatterwood Horror is pretty good against you, and Dragonfire Potion's all right, but you don't deal with those um, unconditional board clears quite the same way that you do in Wild, and you don't deal with the massive life gain all in one shot. It's a very, very different world.
Yep. So speaking, actually, I'm going to take over from here. Just speaking of like updates on how many wins, my next one's going to be Druid because I'm at 407 there. I have Mage at 309 and Priest at 242. So those are my last three. Working on them. Again, I would say Token Druid's a little bit harder in Wild. I wish it was more like Aggro Druid in Standard because that would make it much easier. And then the Big Druid has been kind of seems like when I've been playing it, I've been just barely losing every game, just barely. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong, so I'll have to like kind of figure it out. But I've been playing some Druid lately. I'll intermix it with some Priest. Mage, I'm scared of most, but it's at least sub 200 left, so I'm happy with that. I haven't played much. I'll be playing more to get rid of my quest today, and then Tavern Brawl tomorrow. So I'll be playing Hearthstone for quite a bit over the next couple of days. Kind of a shorter span from our last episode we did last Thursday, so early this week, and it's a little weird. So what about you, Bodikus? What did you do?
So I remember there was that article that we talked about, I think it was a couple weeks ago, about people who qualify for the prelims, and they said that, a lot of the players end up hitting Legend on multiple servers so that you can kind of climb a little better once you get to a high rank. Then you go to another server, try to climb higher. And so I did probably a bad thing. I went over to my Asia account and I had gotten the Warlock Death Knight for my free Death Knight. I was like, cool, I played a lot of Zoo, so that means all I need is patches and a couple captains, and I can make this, I can do Zoo over on Asia and try to hit Legend over here. And so I bought the, the $5 new player bundle, and I bought the Karazhan expansion because I knew I needed the Malkazar's imps. And I was like, oh, I can dust the bad legendaries from Karazhan to get the patches. And so I do all that. I get through Karazhan and I, craft all the cards, and I get to 29 cards, and I'm like, I'm missing a card. Oh crap. I need to craft Keleseth. And so I did it what I recommend nobody ever does, which is I dusted all of the legendaries from all the good legendaries from Karazhan. So hopefully I didn't mess myself up, and hopefully I don't need to play a deck on my Asia account that requires Barnes or Medivh or Arcane Giants or Curator, because that would be bad. But it went really well. I was at like rank 23, and I think I lost 5 games to get to rank 5, 3 stars.
Good lord.
Yeah, I think I had 100% win rate against Rogue, and I faced a lot of Rogue with Zulok. I think that like the way I have my deck built is just like a very good matchup against Rogue. So probably try to push for Legend on Asia sometime before the end of the month, because high ranked American ladder stresses me out. So I'd rather just, get used to hitting Legend on multiple servers. And since the HCT points don't matter as much, then I can, build up my Asia account a little more, so that going into the new year, if I want to make a push for prelims, I'll be able to do that.
Nice.
Rank
So
23 to rank 5 with 5 losses.
I didn't count it. It was not many losses. I remember one loss at like rank 21, and then 2 losses at rank 7 or something, and maybe a couple more splattered in there, but I was win streaking most of the way. I told you the Zoo deck is really good, and I didn't face a lot of Priest, which is what it's not good against. So yeah, it was a good couple days for me, I'd say, I guess.
Nice.
So where are you at on EU, or have you played EU at all?
So the DK legendary I got on EU is Valera, and I have like a Deathwing, and I'm not really close to any deck on that server. So like the reason I went for Zoo was because I could build it fairly cheaply, and apparently it was a little more expensive than I than I intended, because I forgot a legendary. But I'm not really close to anything on EU, so it just made sense to kind of go for Asia.
Gotcha. I think I'm more on EU than I am on Asia. I did go on Asia to just feel like it was Christmas morning by opening up, and I was like, oh hey, I got a new portrait. Oh hey, I got another deck. Oh hey, I got this. It was pretty
the golden
fun.
packs. Golden
Yeah.
pack, sweet. My golden
It was
pack on
pretty
EU
cool.
was much better than my golden pack on Asia, but yeah, the Death Knight, the Warlock Death Knight is probably the best thing I had over there, so that's why I went with that server.
I should just go through everything and get all of my quests done, just to like when I hit rank 5 and I know I'm not going for Legend. I should just kind of like, that's why I went over to Standard and I started playing Rogue to get all my Rogue dailies and games out of the way. So, all right, that's enough about this week. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. I'm gonna pitch it over to Hat for a little bit, and then we'll jump into the news.
So, this week, no new pledges, but we do want to remind everyone of the 2 coachings we're giving away this month. One of them is courtesy of Reaper Cheap in honor of Thanksgiving. Anyone that leaves us an iTunes or Stitcher review, you will be entered in the raffle to be drawn for his coaching session, and then we will redeem that next month for you for free. And Kick Punch is giving away his coaching session to whoever can send us a picture of the largest angry chicken that you make. No friends challenges, but casual ladder is okay, and the chicken does have to be enraged. So the biggest chicken gets the free coaching session. There is unfortunately no angry turkey, so we will have to make do. Though I guess if you play it in wild, you could have wild turkey. But
Ooh.
yeah. Anyways, so yeah, send us pictures of your biggest, angriest chickens, and we would look forward to giving away the coaching to whoever manages to make the biggest one. Yeah. And
To whoever's is bigger.
yes, the largest and angriest. So, and with that, we don't have a lot of news this week, but hey, it's still worth talking about. So let's head into the news.
All right, so I'll take it over from here. The first thing we were going to announce was, or it's not us announcing it, but Blizzard announced the schedule for the card releases and different streamers, and yeah, so there's basically like a calendar that I'm going to throw up here on Twitch here real quick, and it's in our show notes, so you can check it out. Basically, it has different streamers all over the world, and it has the dates and times.
I
So
thought
go
that was
check it out.
really cool how they said, like, usually they just say, like, people are going to be revealing cards, and then people tweet about it. It's like, oh, I heard about this card on this stream. Blizzard just said, this is the streamer, this is the time, this is where it'll be revealed. Go see them. I think it's really a great way to kind of build that relationship between Blizzard and the streamers.
And looks like they teased a bit of the art of these cards too, with the different reveals. So interesting. And yeah, sorry, I got distracted. I want to really click on something to see if I can see more of the art. But the link is there, so go check it out. The other part of the news, we have there was like a little story that Blizzard added that was I almost think of it as it's a two-parter. At least it says here it be continued to part 2, and it's all about a story about. Well, okay. So back to what I was going to say. It seems more like a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master, like kind of setting the stage for the beginning. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I'll probably get flamed from some of our listeners for not playing it because I hear it's a ton of fun. But this is what I would imagine the dungeon master being able to do. I think you've played Dungeons and Dragons too before, right, Han? Like you know what that kind of feels like.
Yeah, well, this is all it's so they did the lore building with KFT, right, with the Death Knight comic. They did kind of the story of how did the Death Knights in Hearthstone, what story happened, and people are interrupting the storyteller like that's not what really happened. He's very clearly making it up. He says I'm making this up, but it's kind of the background of all these cards that don't exist within the canonical world. This is definitely more of a tone-setting piece, an ambient piece. I agree. It feels very much like kind of that the DM just saying, this is what you're going into, and kind of narrating and filling in the context of the world. I thought it was pretty cool, and there was definitely a lot of this set is very flavorful, so I'm really glad they're taking the time to fill it in. I also want to point out they threw in an Easter egg there. There is a point where a character asked Marin, "So what does the fox say?" And
Yep.
I enjoyed that quite a bit.
And the fox says, "How much does it pay?"
Yes.
And also we hear about one of the potential weapons that will probably be revealed eventually, Woe Cleaver. I'm actually in the same boat as you, Kenny. I have not played Dungeons and Dragons before, but I feel like it's one of those games that's very DM dependent. Like you really need to have a
good dungeon master,
a good DM. And I think if I knew one that I knew would be really good, then I would be interested. But I have not found such a person yet. Maybe one day I'll try it out.
So maybe some of our listeners can point us in the right direction. I know there are some podcasts that actually do it kind of live, like on the podcast. So it's interesting. I'll take some time to look into that. All right, so that's pretty much it for the news. I mean, we have news, and obviously there have been cards that have been announced. We will be going over those, but we'll go over those later in our Dexplanation segment. So next we're going to go over the tournament results for the Trinity final week.
Yay!
It's the grand tournament!
All right, Auctioneer Hat is back. Everybody else, mute your mics, pack your lunches, get ready. We have the last 4 matches. These actually happened last Tuesday and Wednesday. No, last Wednesday and Thursday. They had just finished happening at the time of the recording, but we had 4 other matches to talk about. And if we try to talk about 8 Trinity series, which again is a reminder of his last Euro standing best of 11, we would still be here recording right now, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go over the last 4 matches. And these are the ones that decide who makes it the playoffs. Now, there's actually one match here that is only relevant for one team. It's going to be at the end, or in the middle here. It's Team Love You Lots versus Tempo Storm. Tempo Storm at this point had been eliminated. They were 2-4. So even if they won the last match, 3-4 was the cutoff. It's unlikely a 3-4 team would make it. But for everybody else, this matters. So let's start with G2 versus Virtus Pro. Now, a lot of the time, you'll see the first deck is going to be something that has a good spread against the field. Last Euro standing, as a reminder, you keep playing the deck that wins. If your deck wins, you have to queue it up again. And if your deck loses, you cannot play it again for the duration of the series. Whoever has all of their decks eliminated loses, and the last Euro standing, whoever wins the last game, is the one that claims the match point. So, Tempo Rogue is generally a pretty good deck to start with because it can high roll anything, and it doesn't really have too many terrible matchups. Now, Good Mage, which is the Mana Worm and Jaina deck. You start with Mana Worm, you've got Doomsayers pretty frequently. It's got kind of the Freeze Mage, Burn Mage shell, Fireballs, Frostbolts, Medivh's Valets, Firelands Portals. That's usually a pretty good matchup against Tempo Rogue because you have a lot of removal and a lot of early development options, along with Ice Block, which has historically been a good rogue counter. So it works there in that deck because in this particular case because all the cards get removed, and then when you clear the board on turn 8 and then play Jaina on turn 9 from a reasonably high life total, it's very difficult to fall behind from there, and the Good Mage gets the first game. Now, Control Paladin counter cues that from Tice, and this is a Control Paladin with 2 Burgly Bullies, an Auction Master Beardo, and Uther. We don't actually get to see the combo go off, but we get to see the pieces of it. So that takes care of Mage because Control Paladin's all fatty boom boom. It's all big stuff and healing. And then that gets countered right back by Tempo Shaman, which top decks a Bloodlust on turn 6 with 1 Overload and kills from 22 damage. That game was a lot of fun to watch. Then Control Warlock comes back, which is really great at countering Shaman. And then N'Zoth Warrior comes back, which is really great at countering Control Warlock. And then Quest Mage comes back, which is really great at countering N'Zoth Warrior. You get to see how Last Hero Standing works. Pick a deck that beats the deck you know you'll be playing against. If you've ever played N'Zoth Warrior, you know that Quest Mage is basically an unwinnable matchup. Even if you have 100 armor, you're not going to win just because it's infinite damage and there's enough time in the turn to do about 140 to 150 damage. So, Casey queues up Tempo Rogue to counter the Quest Mage deck from Virtus Pro, and the Tempo Rogue pulls off a couple powerful draws in a row, including a turn 3 backstab Edwin Van Cleef against Shaman, followed by Deckhand and SI7 Agent. Pretty backbreaking. And against N'Zoth Warrior, turn 2, Keleseth, Shadowstep, Keleseth. And that's enough to lock down the playoff spot for Virtus Pro. Their Tempo Rogue is able to clear out the remaining decks from G2. They secure their playoff spot with a 6-3 win, Tempo Rogue accounting for 3 of those. So, very impressive showing from Virtus Pro. G2 at this point is eliminated. Next up is Team Love You Lots versus Tempo Storm. Now, it's pretty cool. The first game is one of my favorites to watch in the series because Muzzy gets turn 2 Keleseth. Just Saiyan does not get Keleseth at all. But Saiyan still wins. He still is able to control the game thanks to the power of Vile Spine Slayer. He's able to isolate the bigger minions and develop his own board. Even if your minions are bigger, if they keep getting traded into, it doesn't work. So Just Saiyan is actually able to take the first game despite his opponent having Keleseth and him not having it. And Good Mage is actually unable to keep up with the Tempo Rogue in this particular situation. Just Saiyan is able to scale Bane into Bone Mare, into Shadowstep Bone Mare, and just make a lot of damage really, really quickly, and push through the Ice Block before the Mage deck gets to set up. And Mage didn't really have a super great showing this entire week. This is kind of foreshadowing us for what's to come. Evolve Shaman falls to Keleseth, Shadowstep Keleseth, and then Chalky switches over. He's got this super taunty mid-range Warlock. It's got Stonehill Defender, Tar Creeper, Serenite Chain Gang, and Bone Mare. And it's a control Warlock with stuff, right? Normally control Warlock is very limited on the minions. That's not what Chalky is playing. He's big on the taunts. He even tops out at Lich King. So it turns out that deck's really good against Tempo Rogue because you have all the removal options and all the taunt options. So it actually completely dominates the game. And then when Taunt Warrior is queued up into Taunt Warlock, you would think the Warrior would do better because you get Ragnarok shots and they don't. But it turns out the Taunt Warlock has a much higher minion density and a lot of card advantage options because Life Tap lets you be kind of a weird, mid-rangey deck that has a good amount of pressure. This game was super duper fun to watch, by the way. It ended up coming down to a 25% rag shot for lethal. It missed, but if it had hit, it would have been an incredible upset from Eloise, even though the matchup, I think, was still not super favored for the Control Warlock. That game was a lot of fun. Tempo Storm counters back with their own Control Warlock. The one that's good against minions is better than the one with all the minions. And this game was also really cool to watch. Just Saiyan starts playing for Fatigue on turn 8 and stops life tapping. He has Gul'dan in hand and just stops life tapping on turn 8. 27 life, 16 cards left in the deck. And it's kind of funny. Both players immediately stop drawing cards. And then they both Gul'dan when they have 10 mana. And so much of the game is just siphon life you, pass. Siphon life you back, pass. It's just bite, bite, bite and bite, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But Tempo Storm's deck is built for fatigue. There's Gnome Feratu ×2, and there's Elise the Trailblazer in that deck. So that they are really built to go the long game, and Saiyan played that plan really early. It was fun to watch. Now, Dead Man's Hand Warrior comes out for Team Love You Lots to counter the Control Warlock, but then they counter back, Trump counters back with Murloc Paladin, and the Murloc Paladin is capable of overrunning the Dead Man's Hand Warrior very, very quickly. And then Zalay brings back the kind of weird Big Fish Paladin, as I called it from last week. It's a control paladin, but it has Murlocs in it. It starts with Vilefin, it has Rockpool Hunter, and it has Murloc Warleader. But then it also has Tyrion and Ragnaros and Uther. I don't really get the deck. Zalay was able to clear the board a couple times with a turn 6 Equality Consecrate and to turn 7 Equality Consecrate, but it wasn't enough because his deck seemed to have about 3 different plans. None of them really made sense. The Murloc Paladin made sense, and the pressure was able to stay on, and Trump was able to close out the series 6-3. So, we're halfway through. The next one, for better or worse, depending on who you're rooting for, is a much faster match. So it's Misfits versus Planet Odd. It starts off with the Tempo Rogue Mirror. The Misfits get a big Edwin quickly, and they keep the board, and the other player does not. But then Zixo queues up Taunt Warrior, and he stabilizes at 3 life against the Tempo Rogue. The Tempo Rogue gets him to 3 super quickly, but cannot close in on that last bit of damage. Taunt Warrior digs in its heels, gets the long game, gets rag shots going, and the game is over before you know it. But then Murloc Paladin falls to the Taunt Warrior. Mid-range Hunter falls to the Taunt Warrior. N'Zoth Warrior falls to the Taunt Warrior. Control Warlock and Burn Mage. None of it matters against Ragnaros shots. Zixo goes 6-0 with his Taunt Warrior and completely routs the Misfits. The only game the Misfits won was game 1 where the Tempo Rogue Mirror, they were able to come out on top. But then Taunt Warrior kills them 6 games in a row. It was a good series to watch, some pretty impressive Taunt Warrior play, but the deck looked pretty difficult to beat given what Misfits' lineup was. And, when you're queuing into Control Warlock and Burn Mage against a Taunt Warrior, you know that you've gone wrong somewhere. Alright, the last match, Complexity versus Team Liquid. This is the shortest one in terms of actual game footage and one of the most interesting that I watched. There's tons of back and forth in this match, lots of high and low rolls. It's full of excitement. Now we start off Control Warlock. It looks like the Control Warlock against, I think it's Mage here. I actually didn't write down the first game. But the first game, Liquid is able to win, but Tempo Rogue counters back. Oh, it's Zoo. That's my mistake. So, Team Liquid starts off with Zoo and is able to take the first game off Control Warlock with Vicious Fledglings. They've got Crystal Weavers. They've got Bone Mares. The usual package with a little bit more beef in the mid game. And so because they have more pressure, they're able to keep that going with less minions committed to the board. So the board creatures from Control Warlock just don't matter as much. Tempo Rogue counters right back. There's a turn 2 Fledgling that becomes a turn 3 3/6 Fledgling with Wind Fury from the Zoo deck. But that gets killed 2 turns later by SI Shadowstep SI. I think that in that particular case, maybe Liquid could have been a little bit more aggressive at trading to protect the Fledgling. But they exposed it and they got punished for it. And then Serenite Chain Gang comes down and saves the day. That'll be kind of the theme of the entire week. And Complexity turns around the game and is able to win. There's actually a point, turn 8, where Zoo guaranteed wins if it gets Blood Reaver Gul'dan. They top deck it on turn 8. They've got Bone Mare, Doomguard, and Gul'dan in hand. And their play is life tap, play the Doomguard, trade into the 10-8 Cabal Trafficker, and hope that Gul'dan stays in the hand. Now it does, but it gets countered pretty hard by Cobalt Scalebane and Edwin Van Cleef, which comes down for lethal, so that crazy discard doesn't end up mattering. Now, Rogue then puts down Mage again, thanks to a parade of fatties. It is able to go Tar Creeper into Scalebane, into Cairn, into Bone Mare, into blah, 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 blah. They just have constant pressure. And then Dog suits up his own Rogue, Elemental Rogue, which is really favored in the mirror a lot. You have a lot of removal with your Fireplume Phoenix and your Blaze Caller and all this other stuff that's able to kind of just do enough damage in the mid game and close out the late game that you don't really want to be a minion deck against it. it counters back against the Tempo Rogue, and then beats Shaman when his Cairn gets evolved into an Earth Elemental. That was pretty fun to watch, but it probably wasn't fun to experience for Complexity. So, Complexity only has 2 decks left, and so they decide to bring Crab Hunter against the Rogue. Now, Crab Hunter, double Hungry Crab, double Golakka Crawler, and like we talked about last week, it has Juggler Unleash. Old school combo. So, they actually destroy it by going turn 1 Alley Cat, the Rogue plays turn 1 Firefly, turn 2 Hyena double trade, I have a 6/4. That hits twice, and then by turn 5, they had built a board of 16 attack. Game's over. Taunt Warrior? Well, Taunt Warrior is really good against Hunter unless you go turn 1 Alley Cat, turn 2 Razormont, make a 4/1, turn 3 get a Leok, turn 4 get a Houndmaster, and you're dead on turn 5. By the way, Shaman, do you have a pirate? If you have a pirate, I have, if I'm Mr. Yagoot, I top deck Golakka Crawler, coin it out, and eat it. And then, if you go turn 2 Primal Fin Totem, I go Hungry Crab and eat the Murloc token. Oh my god, it was crazy to watch. So, stick a Thunder Rhino, kill on High Main on turn 6, and the last deck, what do they have as the last deck to play against Crab Hunter? Murloc Paladin. You know how that went? Hungry Crab knows how that went. That was a really incredible Hunter performance. As stated last week, Planet Odd, Team Liquid, Virtus Pro, and Complexity Advance, Misfits, Team Love You Lots, G2, and Tempo Storm all headed home. I think the card of the week from looking at the matches was Serenite Chain Gang. It really overperformed. Every time it got buffed by a Kella set that looked absolutely disgusting, but even then, having a wide board of taunts against all these aggro decks, against the Shamans, against the Murloc Paladins, against the Zoos that you were able to see in this more diverse format, the card was incredibly powerful and played with and against almost every strategy that was seen. So, it definitely overperformed, especially this week.
You missed something.
What did I miss?
That was extremely extensive and a ton of great information there. But I'm surprised that with somebody who's on Twitter so much, you missed that Planet Odd declined their invite to the finals. And so the 5th place team, Team LUL, is actually going to be taking their spot.
Wow.
Jeez. Right, because they're going to be, I saw this, I remember seeing this, they're going to be in China.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So Team LUL missed it and somehow made it.
Yep.
Hooray.
Other than that, that was really another really well explained tournament section for that portion.
Mark one for the Hunter lovers out there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? Because this kind of tournament series had 2 really strong Hunter performances, right? There was a Hunter deck that for, I believe it was Team LUL, had a really strong performance, and obviously there was another great performance this week, and I think even Yagoot played a Knife Juggler Unleash the Hounds deck to a high legend finish recently, so maybe Hunter's kind of making a comeback.
I think it is not as dead as once reported, though it does need to be indicated. Again, this format you have to bring every class, so there's definitely differences in representation. These aren't the decks you want to bring to the ladder right away. These are decks played by players with extensive knowledge of their opponent's matchup history and are playing in a very particular format. But I agree, Hunter definitely performed a little bit better than expected, and Mage had a good showing last week, but didn't really make it this week. So
yeah, it seems like you either played Hunter and had a good success with it, or you self-banned it, right?
Yeah, that was pretty common.
How this format went.
Yeah, Hunter was self-banned most of the first half of the format, but it's Warrior was actually self-banned by Complexity in the end there. It was pretty cool to see that play out as it did, and the quad crab plan was very successful. And
nice. I think the other takeaway too is I think with this report, at least it gives our listeners something to look at to go check out. Like, it's very interesting to see how both teams knew how to play the Warlock versus the Mirror?
Yeah.
Gul'dan versus Gul'dan. So very interesting that they both knew what they needed to do to win, and just how that game kind of works out. So fun to see how some games work out and how it changes by the deck that you play. So
Yeah, it's been really
cool.
fascinating to watch these high level interactions, and you see a lot of these players digging into the knowledge they might have gained from tournaments previously, or just kind of reading in the moment. Because it's not too often that you play a control warlock mirror match where one player has known Feratu. That's not something that anyone has experience with, so they just have to lean on what have I learned from situations like this in the past. I agree. There was no way if I were in Shockey's spot, I would have been like, well, it's turn 8. I'm going to stop live tapping. I would not have done that. So it's been pretty. I agree. Getting a different perspective on these plays and on these matchups is a great way to improve your game, especially in Trinity, because you hear what they're thinking. They will tell you what they're thinking.
Yeah, it's a really great tournament series. I'm looking forward to see how the top 4 plays out.
Or I guess top 5.
Awesome.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Kind of.
And we did actually have another tournament this week, casted by our own Songbird Cora, who got up very, very early in order to cast this tournament. It's called Game Goon. GAME.
This is part of the reason why she wasn't on the podcast. She had to wake up early for this anyway. So
I think it was 3 a.m. Eastern that she started casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew because I was there. Not like at the tournament, but I was in the chat. Yeah, she got up super duper early to cast it. It's a Spanish invitational conquest tournament that starts with group play and then cuts to a top 8 single elimination. We're not going to cover the whole thing, but Bodicus and I have both actually seen the finals of this, which was Colento versus Jackie Chan. I'll give you a bit of a summary here, because this is a match worth talking about, and Bodicus can give you his pro perspective, double NA legend, perspective Asia legend. Yeah. So, if you are not familiar with Jackie Chan as a player, he is used to playing decks that are a little bit off the beaten path, and by that I mean the man loves a good meme. So we
Wacky
start
Jackie.
off. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. We start off with a hand of Howlfiend, Succubus, Silverware Golem, and Clutch Mother Zavis. Oh my. So Colento is playing Jade Druid. Regular old Jade Druid, I mean, it's got Mark of the Lotus, I guess, against full-on discard Warlock. Now, Jackie had turn 1 Malkazar's Imp, easily the best card in the deck, but Colento ramped and ramped and ramped while Jackie was taking his own resources and literally throwing them away. Now, he replaced them. His Succubus discarded a card, his Howlfiend, when he traded, he got a Silverware Golem. He got a Lakari Fellhound down and drew a couple cards off that. But all this time, Colento was doing what Jade Druid does, which is to Wild Growth into Coin Nourish into Double Swipe. So, board gets cleared. Then Medivh comes down, and that's paired with the Jade Idol. And then we pair that with double Mark of the Lotus, and then we Malfurion, and then Jade Druid does what Jade Druid does. But hey, discard 2 was almost good enough. Then Jackie countered back. He said, I'm going to play Murloc Paladin now. And he was playing against Razaka's Priest. He went 1-drop Murloc, into double 1-drop Murloc, into Rowling Blade, into Coin 3/5 Finja, into get a War Leader, play Gentle Megasaur, into, by the way, you're dead now. Pretty effective. There was no Dragonfire Potion to be seen, and the game was over before Anduin could come down. Then Jackie cues up his Priest. But wait a minute. This is no ordinary Priest. This is definitely Divine Spirit Interfire Priest with Tempo, with Shadow Ascendant, and with Injured Blade Master. And it has a lot of cool tempo-y cards, but what it doesn't have is the ability to pressure down Razaka's Priest, which promptly goes turn 4 Raza, turn 6 Kazakus, turn 8 Shadow Reaper Anduin. GG. Game's over. So we switch back, we got the Zoo Mirror, except one Zoo is a lot weirder than the other Zoo. They trade back and forth the early game. When Colento wants to play turn 3 Captain Get Patches, of course he draws Patches. Wah wah. But then Jackie Chan top decks his second Malkazar's Imp after his first one got traded away and goes turn 5 Malkazar's Imp, Lakari Fellhound, discard 2, draw 2, and by the way I draw Clutch Mother Zavis. And then the following turn he plays another Lakari Fellhound and discards 2, one of which the Clutch Mother, and draws 2 cards. And from there, Zoo is not going to really be able to recuperate when one player is developing 3/8 taunts and drawing a lot of cards, and the other player is doing none of that stuff. So somehow, we're we're 2-2. And then Kalento starts off the zoo game with turn 1, Flame Imp, coin, Flame Imp. Turn 2, Malkazar's Imp, Soulfire your minion. Turn 3, South Sea
Crawler.
Captain, get a Patches. Yeah, it was a Golakka Crawler, just a regular 2/3 Golakka Crawler. So he plays the Crawler, and then that gets countered by Pirates. So when you go turn 1 double Flame Imp, into turn 2 Malkazar's Imp, kill your thing, draw a card, into South Sea Captain, get a 2/2, you'd think that'd be good enough. It wasn't quite good enough. It turns out that Jackie plays, he has a Cabal Talon Priest in play, and then he builds up into a Tar Creeper, and then an Injured Blade Master, and then a Northshire Cleric Circle of Healing, and the whole time Kalento is trading his minions. I'm not really sure why, and I'm going to defer this to Bodicus for the strategic analysis, but Kalento is trading, after he spent his whole hand developing this incredible offensive onslaught, and he sacrifices a bunch of his minions, and Jackie Chan is able to Golakka that South Sea Captain with his second Golakka. The first was just bait. So when you kill 3 of your opponent's minions and then develop, and they're life tapping and you're healing, you get ahead on life. And then all of a sudden, Jackie's ahead on board. And then all of a sudden, after Jackie is able to use Northshire and Circle of Healing to draw 2 cards and stay ahead on board and make a 4/9 Blade Master, then that's the game. And Jackie Chan beats the Zoo Draw of the Century to become the 2017 Game Goon champion.
Woohoo.
Yay.
I was pretty stoked about that. So, yeah, not to kind of go over everything that you went over, but pretty much most of these games came down to like, 1 or 2, really big turns. Like, kind of, it looks like Jackie's discard Warlock is based on having all these cards that have obviously big drawbacks, but sacrificing, having these drawbacks to having a really strong early game. So you have like a 3-mana 3/6 and a 4-mana 3/8 taunt. And so, like, obviously the first game where he's against the Jade Druid came down to basically Kalento having double swipe after he had ramped pretty hard, and that kind of just demolished Jackie's board. And once he gets behind with that deck against Jade Druid, you're just not coming back. Game 2, there was a very important turn where Kalento actually made a really cool play. Actually, kind of the way it turned out. So basically, he played a Radiant Elemental on turn 4, going into Jackie's turn 4 when he has coin. And the reason why it was interesting was Jackie had the second half of his Rallying Blade, so he could just take out the Radiant Elemental, but what he ends up doing is coining out the Finja. Now, normally you're like, oh, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kalento can't trade his Radiant Elemental with the 2 Murlocs Jackie has on board, so Jackie gets like this nice trade in and gets to pull a bunch of Murlocs out. But since it's a Radiant Elemental on board and Kalento's going into his turn 5, that's super dangerous for Jackie, because if Kalento had Dragonfire Potion, Kalento just essentially wins on the spot there because he gets way too far behind from that position. But I guess for the first time, I think ever in Hearthstone history, the Singleton Priest did not have the perfect answer on the perfect turn. And that's how Jackie, I think, was able to win that game. Game 3 basically came down to Kalento had the Tar Creeper on turn 3, and it just bricked all of Jackie's minions. Jackie basically drew mostly creatures and not the spells to go with his creatures, and so he wasn't able to push through. He just kind of kept drawing his creatures and wasn't able to combo or like use his cards together to draw his cards and win that matchup. The game 4, you did a really good summary of that, where Jackie kind of drew his Malakazar's Imp and started drawing a bunch of extra cards to get ahead. And then the last game was really interesting, that Kalento ended up going for some interesting trades. there was kind of that turn where, Jackie baited out pirates essentially by playing the Galaka crawler, also just to not get too far behind on board, but had the second Galaka crawler so that when Kalento went for the trades into his Talon Priest, he gets to Galaka crawler the captain, and trading is just you just kind of can't get there from that position. Had and I were talking about this a little bit before the show, and I was trying to go through my thought process, and I'm like, well, if Kalenta or if Jackie gets like any of his buff spells on his own creatures, maybe Kalento just can't afford to let him have any creatures. But if he had gone for the no trade route and all face, then Jackie's maybe developing one creature a turn, maybe two. Maybe he can actually end up, squeaking out that game. But it was a really good finals. I'm really stoked for Jackie because I saw a tweet from Firebat saying that, Jackie was commenting that people only think of him as kind of a meme deck player. And he wishes people kind of thought of him more as a competitive player. And Firebat's like, I didn't realize you were going to prove everybody wrong so quickly. So that was pretty cool. And great casting by Cora and Lothar, I believe.
Yep, it was Lothar. And yeah, Jackie just likes to play his way, but he's never, he's hit rank 1 legend a bunch of times. I think when I first actually had heard of him, he was the one that invented Egg Druid. The standard build of Egg Druid, that was his. And then I hit legend with his version of Token Druid back in the day, which had double Violet Teacher, double Wisp of the Old Gods, and Onyxia. And you just filled the board constantly. That was in a Control Warrior meta, and you were able to get Wisp of the Old Gods and the Soul of the Forest with an Emperor Thorson, and that was his innovation. It was a little off the beaten path, but it's not like the deck was bad. It was just a little different. Now, I don't know about this full Discord Warlock. It seemed pretty dependent on drawing the right cards, but he seemed to have a really good grasp of the game state. And I'm not going to say Kalento doesn't. It's Kalento, right? Kalento is a known, celebrated tournament player, but I was really surprised to see. I mean, I know it's in character for me to say he should have gone face there, because that's basically what I say to everyone all the time. But whenever I play Priest, I always feel like I lose to aggro decks when I play one well-statted minion per turn that doesn't have taunt, and I have to trade with it, and in the meantime, they're just going face. And I get to kill one minion a turn while they hit me with the other 4 or 5. And Kalento had the option. He had 7 power on the board by turn 2. He had 12 power on the board by turn 3. Why are you trading into a 3-4? What are you doing by trading into 3-4? He threw away 5 damage that turn, and probably another. If the 3-4 trades into your 3-3, you just trade your patches in the next turn. You just got 5 free damage to the face. I don't know if there was something I wasn't seeing. Maybe he was playing around Akanai Circle, but if your opponent has Akanai Circle against you on turn 4 and you've already spent 6 cards, you're probably losing anyways. I didn't really see a big reason to take the line that he did, but it's very easy to say that with caster vision. I mean, he's a proven professional with a lot more tournament winnings and high rank finishes than anyone in this show. So it was still fun to watch. And Jackie is a really fun player to keep an eye on, but his decks are a little off kilter. Doesn't mean they're bad.
Yeah, like another way to look at it is like Kalento obviously has hundreds and thousands of games against very specific matchups, but Jackie's bringing this deck that's just very slightly different than mostly anything Kalento's ever played before. So Kalento has this amazing mind that knows how every matchup plays out, knows what he needs to do in every matchup, but then he comes against Jackie and it's like, okay, this is kind of like this deck, but it's not. It's different, and he might have just picked the wrong line, or maybe he wasn't winning that game no matter what he did. But it's potential that it is possible that he just didn't know the matchup extremely well. Whereas Jackie plays against meta decks all day long with his wacky decks, so he kind of has the upper hand there, and might have been why he was he was just felt more comfortable in a tournament like this where you're playing against. I mean, some of the other people he beat are just stone cold killers. Like he beat RDU in the semifinals. I mean, it was a really impressive showing.
If only this were the Trinity finals, we could hear his thoughts. Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see, and that's what the benefit of watching that is. You get to hear them play. But yeah, I'm sure you would have liked an explanation, Hat, for all of his trading.
The next time I see him, I'm gonna ask him, Kalento, what
There you
were you
go.
doing in Game 5 of the Game Goon Invitational?
He'll probably
right.
say I was losing.
Yeah.
It's a
He's
double
like,
Galactica
He'll
crawler.
probably
Yeah, I
say,
don't
who
wanna
are
talk
you and
about
why are you at my house?
All right, so that does it for the tournaments this week. I'm excited for next week. I think we're going to talk a little bit more in detail over the controller boards Wild Invitational. So that'd be fun to go over. I think it'd be interesting to kind of give someone a taste of what the Wild tournament scene kind of is. I mean, tournament scene, air quotes. But yeah, it'd be fun. Hat, I think, are both excited to look into that a little bit more. I may try a hand at this. We'll see.
Yeah, that's so the tournament has already happened. I don't believe there are
Yes.
any major tournaments happening between now and next week due to American Thanksgiving. And it's just kind of a slow time of year for tournaments because the new set will probably be coming out in about 2 weeks. And we want to make sure we spend a little bit of time covering. This is one of it's not I wouldn't call this a huge Wild tournament in terms of prize support, etc.
Yeah.
But it's fun and it highlights a lot of the Wild strategies and the players involved. We definitely want to shine a light on that, so we're gonna spend some time on that next week. We also don't want the tournament section to grow out of control because it's already pretty lengthy with just one tournament covered here. So we're gonna push that to next week, and I think that'll be some really compelling content. And our own KCCO gamer is the Wild Man, and
Wild
we're
man.
pretty excited for him and I. All three of us actually are gonna spend some time looking into that.
It can be a little bit challenging when you're starting to coach people who are playing a standard, and you're like, wait, is this in Wild? Do we have to play around this? Yeah. So I actually had a fun coaching this week with Esperanza. We got to play some Wild. So
Yeah. When you're in standard,
Yeah.
you're like, save that burn for after they have Reno. But Kenny, it's standard.
yeah, it works out. So yeah, we have
Sometimes Greater Healing Potion feels like Reno.
It's that demoralizing feeling of I almost have it. Yeah, that feeling is no different. But 12 life versus 30 is a lot more dealable. But yeah, I know that feeling.
All right. And then we have DreamHack Sweden coming up later. So keep an eye on all those. We'll keep you informed and bring the competitive side of the scene and make it accessible to you. So hope you enjoyed that. Let me go ahead and go over the thank yous.
Rock is dead.
All right. So to continue with the review challenge, although I think someone was mentioning they wrote a review this week, but they didn't want to be a part of the raffle for it. But we have a Stitcher review this week, another Stitcher one, no iTunes, but Stitcher titled "From Stray Dog in the U.S. Must Listen." This podcast is in my top 3 of all podcasts ever podcasted. Ever podcasted, I should add. I'm sure that's a word, he said. The cast is stellar, the content is top notch, and the soundboard, that's right, there's a soundboard, compliments to the crew ridiculously well. Everyone has great understanding of the game, and they are always active in the community. If you kind of sort of like Hearthstone, then you absolutely need this podcast in your life. If you love Hearthstone, you're probably already listening. So what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe. Thank you, Stray Dog. We appreciate it. Thank you for the review. So let's go over what everyone's been waiting for. The weapons, the secrets, the legend, everything that's been announced so far. Luckily, it's been a slow leak so far. So, explanations.
All right, everybody. I am super excited. We have some more cards that were revealed as of yesterday and today. They had a pretty cool reveal stream. I didn't like it as much as they had for Frozen Throne with Kibler, but this one was still pretty cool. We got a few new cards, and I kind of bunched them in kind of the order I wanted to talk about them. So Kenny and Hat are going to have to go with my order, even though I'm sure they want to talk about some other cards more. I think the most exciting thing to talk about are the legendary weapons, kind of the highlight of the set. The first one I want to talk about is the new Druid legendary weapon, Twig of the World Tree. It is a 4-mana 1/5 weapon with Death Rattle, gain 10 mana crystals. And wow, this card scares me. So I'm hoping that one of you two can talk me down, because I don't think that this card is bonkers, but it feels like it could be potentially problematic. I kind of said this in the Discord earlier. Obviously, the new nut draw for Druid is Wild Growth into Twig into Nourish, and then Medivh and UI on the same turn is not ever something I want to have to play against. But even if that is not, obviously that's not going to happen every game because that's two legendaries, but the even just having a turn where you can get this to have 1 durability left, and then you play a UI and then attack with the weapon, get your 10 crystals back, and play a bunch of cards you just drew, seems like, just another Coon turn essentially. It can be pretty scary. So talk me down, guys. Why don't you tell me why this card is not going to be as good as I think it is?
I'm going to let you go first, Hat, because I have a couple things I want to mention.
So I have a bunch of thoughts. First of all, I think this card is elegantly designed, and I could be wrong about it. I think it's really cool to give a card with a super powerful death rattle to a class that normally cannot destroy its own weapons. And if you just play this on turn 4 and you don't have any Medivh shenanigans, the card is powerful, but requires a lot of setup, and the payoff is good. You get to play 2 big minions a turn. But I don't know if this was built in the context of the current standard year. This reminds me a lot of the Aviana Coon combo, where you took 2 legendaries and they were printed. One of them was printed at the end of a release year. You had 3 months where it was legal in the most powerful format possible given those 6 sets. The aggro decks generally kept it in check because they were faster and better and more powerful because they had 6 sets worth of cards to work from. And when you got off Aviana Khan, it was because you had spent the entire game setting up and hadn't gotten punished for it. This is similar. Not quite the same, but similar. It's not an instant kill. It's a good turn. It's a really, really good turn. But I don't know. I have difficulty seeing a combo that takes that long to set up and that specific sequence of cards being oppressive. I see it being powerful. See it maybe being fun to lose to the first time and then unfun going forward. I see it making Trollden. I'd be surprised if that was what the meta revolved around, because Druid doesn't need to get cutesy to win. Druid's very good at winning already. You can win with anything between Enchanted Raven and Yasharaj right now. You don't need to play a 4-mana weapon to get that going. So you have to say the benefit of playing this weapon has to be worth the trade-off of playing a clunkier version of my deck already. Big Druid is probably one of the best decks in the format. I don't see this making Big Druid significantly better than it is. I could be wrong.
I do see it going into the deck, though.
Sure.
Definitely feels like a card that goes into the deck.
I think you play it, but we're at the point where every deck is at the peak of its power level because it has the maximum number of cards to choose from. I don't know. I think it allows that late game burst of mana, but
which we've seen has been pretty powerful in that deck.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that Big Druid can't use extra 10 mana a turn. I'm not going to say that's not true. I agree with you that nut draw will be nearly impossible to beat. But will it happen frequently enough that we need to worry about it? And if not for Medivh, when is this card really bonkers? That's the question.
I mean, yeah, like I said, just a turn. If you can get to a board state where you're spreading plaguing and stalling the game out, and they don't have big taunt minions that you have to attack. That's kind of where I'm seeing the potential for this card, and I do hope that I'm wrong. But what do you think, Kenny? What are your thoughts?
So my first thoughts actually went to how this changes other things. Again, my first look is always going to be how it affects other cards. So being in wild, other things like Malkarok, where you can equip a random weapon. I think this guy's toast on Twitter said Swashbuckler for Rogue.
Yeah.
Then this, and then Hero Power. And he's like, easy. So very interesting that, and like Pat was saying, the troll. He sees it in Trollden.
Yeah.
It's a fun card. It'll be something that'll be affected by other things. So we'll get to another card I think we may cover, which I think makes this a little bit more interesting.
Okay.
So
the other legendary weapon that was revealed was the Shaman legendary called the Rune Spear. It is an 8-mana 3/3 weapon that says after your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets. I think at first glance this weapon does not look very good, and I think I would tend to agree for the most part, but I was trying to think of uses where this card is very good. And kind of what Peter Whalen had said on the stream was that Shaman actually has quite a few non-targeting spells. So I was thinking like, okay, so
that's I'm going to interject here real quick because I was thinking any spell. I guess Discover is specific to the hero itself. It wouldn't be any spell, right?
There's no neutral spells, and so Discover is only limited to the pool of spells that your class can cast. That's a true statement, but a misleading one. Because yes, you can get Call on the finishers with random targets. That's pretty exciting. You can get Forked Lightning with non-random targets.
Yeah, so basically what I'm thinking is Volcano, right? That's the one. If you knew that this card was 8-mana 3/3 weapon that after you attack with it you cast Volcano, it seems like a card you could slot into a controlling Shaman type deck.
Yeah.
Or like 8-mana cast Lightning Storm, not quite as good. But there's also like a lot of Shaman spells that just target creatures. And if you're playing a control Shaman deck that might not have any creatures on the board when you attack with this, maybe you can make good use out of this. All I'm saying is most people are calling this dust right away. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is, but it's definitely a card that's worth at least putting some time into and realizing that it's probably not very good. But you never know when it could find a spot, is what I'm trying to say. Any other thoughts?
No, you pretty much hit it right on the head.
I think you're very optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, in order for this to work, you have to be pretty optimistic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Feral Spirits and Devolve are ones you didn't mention that I think are worth mentioning. There are a lot of whiffs in here. There are currently 29 standard legal Shaman spells. I counted it's 29 for sure. And the problem with the overload mechanic is that you get that you don't really get to choose if you get that overload or not. And there's a lot of cards that will benefit your opponent's minions. You'd have to play a minion light deck for this to work, so that when you discover a hex, it never hits your own targets. But Feral Spirit's pretty good. A Volcano, Lightning Storm. You could be okay with Farsight or Finders Keepers. They're not ideal, but they at least get you somewhere. And I mean, Tidal Surge is life in a pinch.
Lava Burst. Yeah.
Well, Lava Burst can go face. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want Lightning Bolt. You don't
if
want
you're talking
Lava Burst.
specific. Yeah, if you're talking about specific or Jade Lightning, specifically, you're gonna look for board clears. Is what they're thinking.
It's got to be board clears or card advantage. Now keep in mind you get 3 of those, but this is a little weaker. I think they made the weapon classes it looks like the weapons that we've seen so far aren't quite as powerful as the non-weapon classes because they want them to
Mhm.
feel a little special and different. And the idea of a constant aura effect that you have for the rest of the game, or at least until your weapon is destroyed, makes a little bit more sense for those to be more powerful and unique and different, as opposed to uh, this example. I mean,
Ooh.
maybe this is just Blizzard being scared of what they've done to Shaman last year, and they just don't want to do it again this year, and they kind of nudge all the cards now. But
Maybe.
I don't know.
But it is potential that we just spent too much time talking about a card that's not going to see any play anywhere outside of random generating effects.
But it's interesting.
Well,
It is interesting, I think.
and I haven't actually checked this, but the Greenspeed and Twitch actually mentioned discover the arena only spell.
That would
So-
be, yeah.
outside of standard things, but interesting. I haven't checked to see if if the Shaman card was a spell or not. I think it was.
Yeah, Crackling Doom. That was the 0-mana spell.
Yep. Anyway, so the next set of cards, we have 2 rogue lovers on the cast. Rogues are now going to have secrets. So the
Yeah,
first secret
I'm
is...
liking rogue. You're gonna say 3 rogue lovers here because
Oh,
I like rogue.
okay. Well, so we're just an all rogue cast now.
There we go.
We're only talking about rogue for the rest of the casts forever. So the first rogue secret is Cheat Death. It's a 2-mana secret. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. It costs 2 less. People were talking about this in Hat's stream the other day, talking about it like in a tempo rogue, all the cool cards you could get back. And the first thing I thought of was Auctioneer Prep Cheat Death. And I got a little excited because I have Shadow Stepped an Auctioneer before, and boy, let me tell you, a 4-mana Auctioneer is way better than a 6-mana Auctioneer, especially one that they have to kill first. So, what do you get? You guys got any thoughts on this?
Ugh.
Well, there's other big, Auctioneer was my first thought too, and another big one. Again, we were going spell rogue, but the I'm blanking on the name again.
Malagos?
Was it
Oh,
Malagos?
God.
Yeah, Malagos. Yeah. The spell dragon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Malagos a good one.
Yeah.
Arcane Giant. Edwin Van
Yeah.
Cleef. Hey, remember when he was big in
Vilespine
cost 3?
Slayer.
Now he's big in cost 1. Vilespine Slayer, even SI Agent. It's a lot of value here. It just has to be worth the card you invest. And this means you can't play crappy minions. You can't play this card whenever you have a Swashbuckler or a Patches in play. Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, Swashbuckler isn't the worst, but Patches would very much not be ideal.
yeah. And I like the mana reduction a lot. I think it's cool. The rogue secrets, we're going to talk about the first 2 that have been revealed. There is a third one. It's a very small pool of cards. If only one of them ends up being good, your opponent will always know what it is. So it's very important to discuss that this is not like Paladin or Mage or Hunter where multiple secrets are good. This is going to be a pool of 3 cards, and you got to choose between 1 of 3 effects. It'll be fairly easy to test for it. So in a Tempo Rogue, as it stands now, you would not play this, I don't think.
But it is interesting that now if you Swashbuckler against a Paladin and get Hydrologist, you will no longer get Paladin secrets, you get Rogue secrets.
And it's the same 3 every
True.
time, right? You always get
Yep.
to choose the same ones.
So anyway, we'll go over the second secret that was revealed. Sudden Betrayal, 2-mana secret. When a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. I do not like this card. I do not think it is very good. It feels very easy. It feels very easy to play around. You can just, if you have like kind of a not very good minion, then and you think this secret is there, you can place it in between where one of your good minions is on the outside or something, and like it feels like you have a lot of control, or your opponent has a lot of control over which minion attacks which of their own minions. So I don't really see a spot for this. Do you guys see anything that
Arena.
I'm not seeing?
Arena.
Okay.
I think in Arena, it's a lot more minion based, and the smaller minions tend to get traded off a little faster. I think this could see some play there, especially if you're using you're playing Rogue. You're already dagger down the 1/1s, right? The little things. You could very easily control the board and set it up so that this becomes a little bit more removal, more useful. I agree that in constructed, I don't see it happening.
Anything for you, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm getting the same sentiment towards you guys with this, and it's
Okay,
Um,
so we have Cheat Death, which is essentially Getaway Kodo mixed with Shadow Step. So that's the Paladin like secret, and then you have Sudden Betrayal, which is like Misdirection mixed with Betrayal. What do you guys think the third secret is going to be? I hear rumors that it's supposed to be similar to a Mage secret, and I think I have it figured out, but I want to hear what you guys think it is.
When you would take lethal damage, instead you gain stealth.
Oh, I hope not. Please
Yeah.
no.
It's
Please no.
no smoke block. Yes.
Oh,
Smoke
please.
blocks.
For anyone listening, that was a joke. Please no hate mail.
Do you have a guess, Kenny?
I don't. I haven't even thought about it, but that's a good
Okay.
insight, and I think that's cool. They would do that if that was the case.
So I think I know what it's going to be. I think it is going to be Mana Bind mixed with Preparation, the other very prominent rogue card. So it will be whenever your opponent casts a spell, add a copy of to your hand, and it costs 3 less. So then basically you have Cheat Death. Obviously the Paladin secrets cost less than 2, so you have to make it a little bit better than that. Sudden Betrayal, Hunters, it's pretty even. Secrets cost the same amount. Mages spells cost a little more than rogue spells or rogue secrets, so you would need it to be slightly worse than Mana Bind. So just having the cost reduction by 3 instead of to 0 made sense to me. I don't know if you guys think that's sounds plausible or.
That'd be a really that'd be a really strong card.
Your
feel.
logic makes sense to me. I mean, it'd be very specific, right? Because you
Yeah.
wouldn't ever play it early, because you would get a coin. And there are a lot of decks where Mana Bind and Counterspell are actively bad. That's part of the reason why Secret Mage isn't tier 1 right now. If you ever play Counterspell against a zoo, they're just like, okay, hit you in the face. They don't care. So
they might give you a Soulfire, but probably not, because those are pretty much the only spells in the deck.
I don't even know if that card would be good.
Yeah, I don't think it would be very good, but I think that's probably I don't know. It feels like a really nice fit to me just because of how they've kind of laid them out, and also I love the card Preparation. So anything that reminds me of Preparation is cool with me.
Like, I just envision a Razaka's Priest giving you a copy of a Shadow Word Death Net sitting in your hand for 0 mana the rest of the game.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, we got some other cards here we should get to. 2 more legendaries were spoiled. I like this one. This is the Hunter legendary, Katharina Winterwisp. It is a 8 mana 6/6 with Battlecry and Death Rattle. Recruit a beast. My first impression, or at least kind of what I've heard from other people, is what if your deck was the only beasts in your deck were like Savannah Highmane, King Crush, and Charged Devilsaur. Sounded pretty interesting to me, but any card that makes Barnes better is obviously scary. What do you guys think? Is Big Hunter going to be a thing? Kenny, what do you think?
It already isn't wild.
Slightly different.
Yeah, slightly different. I think it's another card that would probably fill out. I think they're slowly entering different pieces. I haven't taken a look to see if any pieces will be leaving in the next expansion or next set. So I'm curious to see how this. It looks good. They did show on stream how it would work, and with some pretty crazy situation. But you have to make a very specific deck. It's a workaround legendary. So
I mean, you can still put minions in your deck. They just can't be, or you can put smaller minions in your deck. They just can't be beasts. So the question is are there enough? Essentially, they're probably going to have to be neutral minions because Hunter doesn't have a lot of low-cost non-beasts to make this good. 8 mana for 6/6 is obviously not the stats we're looking for, but effect could be potentially very powerful. Anything I'm missing, Hat, on this one?
So, Hunter is a weird class in that anytime you make anything value heavy, historically it hasn't worked with the exception of Deathstalker Rexar sometimes. And in Wild, if you're not playing Dr. Boom, you're not playing discard. And Dr. Boom doesn't see play in Wild. I think it's fair to say Dr. Boom is a similar, if not greater amount of value, better tempo, and it just comes out sooner. It's a little bit more effective in a lot of ways. I don't see this seeing play in Wild when you already have a better option that is too slow for the format. In Standard, this needs to be in a value hunter deck. If you're playing it to get King Crusher Charge Devil Sword, you can just play those cards. They're already not good enough. Pulling it out of your deck is okay, right? Like, you get to go get it, you get a little bit more consistency, but you're adding a legendary to go get another legendary, another one of a card that normally wouldn't be good enough to see play. So, in order for this to be relevant, you need a value-based hunter or a mid-range hunter, like a true mid-range. Not mid-range
Or
as
a
in I kill you.
control hunter.
Yeah, well, it might need to be a control hunter.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting to the point where you can build a value strategy, and Deathstalker Rexar has impressed me with how good Build-A-Beast has been.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's Battle Cry and Death Rattle together on Aya has proven to be very, very strong. This is no Aya. It costs way more. You have to get to turn 8 as a hunter, and then want to develop your board, and then kill them after that. And that's typically not what Hunter has done. If they get more cards that allow us to play a slower game, then maybe. But their hero power means you have to play a faster game or else your hero power does nothing. And if you're playing a faster game, I don't know if there's room for this card. So I'm hoping there's opportunity for slower Hunter decks to exist.
Yeah, I think Hunter needs the card that's going to be arena only to make Control Hunter a thing, honestly. The 2-mana spell that makes your hero power able to target minions.
For the rest
Yeah,
of the game. I don't
Deadeye.
know why
For the
you.
rest of the game.
I won't know why you would don't make that type of card. You really would only have one card of that. You can't play 2 of it because it'd be pointless, right?
Well, you want to draw
Well,
it.
I guess you could play a second one so you could have a better chance of drawing it earlier.
yeah,
The
like,
second
if
one
I-
will
if-
refresh your hero power, right? You can play 2 Dynamancies.
That's true.
Anyway, so the other legendary that was spoiled was Zola the Gorgon. It is a 3-mana 2/2 with Battlecry. Choose a friendly minion, add a golden copy of it to your hand. And I think the biggest question I have for this is, Hat, why did you not get the pun when it was in Channel Pun
I'm
right
sorry.
away?
I let you all down. I'm a disappointment.
Shout out to Channel Pun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so if you haven't heard the pun yet, this is Zola the Gorgon. Zola Gorgon. Gorgon Zola. The pun is quite cheesy.
It was great.
Can't wait to see the.
I think it was better that Hat missed it because it made me smile.
I'm
Way
here for you,
more
buddy.
than the pun itself. Anyway, in terms of playability, this seems kind of slow. It reminds me of Stitch Tracker, except way more conditional. It seems really slow, and obviously the body's small. Maybe you guys see something. I've heard some rumblings of like Mill Rogue. I know, Kenny, you've played Mill Rogue against me a couple times in Wild and smashed me. What do you think?
I haven't had a chance to really think of too much regarding its actual play, but my first thought was exactly what you just mentioned was Stitched Tracker. I was going over with Regana's Prime other ways that the other things that this reminds us of, and the other thing that came to mind was the Rogue card. What was this? That puts a 1/1 in your hand.
2/3. Oh, Shadowcaster.
Shadowcaster. That's it. So if you're a priest or rogue, you already sort of have something like this. Again, it's kind of a little bit different, but this is, I think the big part of this is that it's a neutral, and you could be basically getting an extra copy of a legendary in your deck if it stays on board, if it's not answered. So it adds a different dynamic and aspect to the game, but we'll see if this is actually something that would be worth adding into your deck. Again, it could be more like could you imagine having, and again, I'm thinking Wild, like another Reno, another,
I just thought of maybe like Quest Rogue. I was thinking, getting extra copies of stuff that you've already played.
Yeah.
It's 3 mana, but you already have a bunch of super cheap minions. But then again, you're also playing this minion that doesn't give you, like, you get to maintain a little bit of board presence, right? That's that's what makes it slightly better than the 2 mana 2/3 that, youthful brewmasters something back to your hand.
Mhm.
So you like kind of get to maintain a little bit more board presence that way. But um, yeah, is there anything else I'm missing? You thinking maybe? I know you played a lot of priest hat. You think
Uh,
getting an extra Kazakus?
well, okay, so if you're gonna play this card, it's gonna be crappy Brand Bronzebeard, right? It's you need a good battle cry, and you need it to be cheap enough that you can play this and the battle cry minion in the same turn. Kazakus, Cold Light Oracle, you could do. Um, I don't think you'd play it with just Swashbuckler, but I think about with in a deck with Swashbuckler, Keleseth, Si, even Serenite Chain Gang. It's
Mhm.
the in Bone Mare. There's enough targets here that you view this as a crappy brand, right? You
Right.
don't with brand, you get the battle cry twice right away, and it's really, really good. Here you get the card twice. It draws you a card, and if it has a battle cry, you get the effect there. So I think there's that this might see play in Tempo Rogue, right? You
Okay.
might actually play it because you think about the number of minions you want to duplicate. Firefly, Swashbuckler,
It's a
Keleseth.
low cost card too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and it doesn't like the fact that it doesn't return it to your hand, so you're not sacrificing the board presence that you already have on there. I was just trying to think of how many situations are you actually going to run into where you still have a board presence because you actually, unless you, like you were saying, you already, you can play something in the same turn, but how many situations do you already have the board presence so you could play this? It seems like, secretly it's it's a 6 or 7 mana card.
Yeah, it's I agree. You could play it the cheapest I would see playing it and being happy about it would probably be with Doomsayer, because you play it and then get another Doomsayer, and you could chain a
Okay.
couple of them. It's I think the card has applications, and I think they're very specific. And this is not a day one craft, but I could see a
No.
world in which this card is played.
Okay.
It would have to be you have a bunch of cheap battle cries and a bunch of small minions, and you're happy with both. And if that's the case, then this could very well see play. It's specific and it's niche and it's slow and it's grindy, and so you have to want to spend some time investing in it to get that card advantage back. If the format speeds up, it won't be playable.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I guess we should get into kind of the elephant in the room, at least what it seems like it is. It's the new priest card called Duskbreaker. It is a 4 mana 3/3 dragon with battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all other minions. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
Uh,
this isn't an elephant; it's a dragon.
it is a dragon,
Yeah.
and it's a very good dragon. And uh, the way I've always viewed these cards is it's like with Draconid Operative, it's a dragon that cares about having other dragons in your hand. So, you can play multiples of them, and multiples are good. And this is Hellfire with a 3/3 body attached that also doesn't deal 3 damage to your face. And your priest, so you usually don't care about dealing 3 damage to their face. So, uh, I'm hoping this card plays way worse than it reads, because it reads like there's going to be a lot of priest in the next and after the set release, and it feels like my lovely zoo lock deck is going to have just yet another board clear that I get to play around. Hat, you were talking to me about this card a little earlier.
It's
What are your
real
thoughts?
good. It's real good. So in Magic, many moons ago, there was a card called Flame Tongue Kavu,
Oh god.
and it was a big deal in Standard when it was printed. It was a 4 mana 4/2 that dealt 4 damage to another minion when you played it. And ever since then, and this is in all card games, something that we've all learned is that anytime that you put a reasonably statted minion combined with a powerful spell effect that affects the board, that card is good about 100% of the time. And you look at SI7 Agent as an example in Hearthstone. You look at Abyssal Enforcer. You can kind of view Fireland's Portal as that. Kind of in reverse, the damage is guaranteed, Blaze Caller as well, Fire Plume Phoenix. Anytime you get a minion and some kind of way to affect the board, some kind of removal, Vile Spine Slayer. Anytime you get that, you've got a powerful card in your hand, and this is an extremely powerful effect against a lot of aggro decks. If you are playing Tempo Rogue with South Sea Captains, if you play a Serenade Chain Gang into this card, it feels terrible that your first bunch of turns and your 4-drop just get eliminated. Token Shaman is not playable if this card is good. So, Priest doesn't usually have effective early board clears that allow them to develop at the same time. One of the better cards that they've revealed. It's the best card they've revealed for this set. Zalay was saying he thought it was the best card they've printed in Standard in a long time. It's really, really powerful. Really powerful.
So, can I give you a hard time for calling creatures in Magic minions, since you give me a hard time for calling.
You get the idea.
Minions.
I'm translating for our audience.
I know. I'm just messing around. What do you think, Kenny? Do you have anything? Is this wild playable? This seems. Is there a priest dragon deck?
Well, it's still valid in wild. Again, it's adding something else. So the more that gets added to wild, the better and more powerful things get. So it gets more control based, which is sad for me. I like the faster decks, but it's tough. It's a good card. It's a good card, just plain and simple. I don't want to add too much to what you guys said, but I agree.
I guess Egg Druid doesn't care as much about this. All right, so let's keep it moving real quick. I asked this question before the cast. I don't know if Pat got an answer. There's the Warrior Spellstone. It is called Lesser Mithril Spellstone. It is 7 mana. Make a 5/5 Mithril Golem. If you equip a weapon, it upgrades to make 2, and if you equip another weapon, it upgrades to make 3. My question was, if you have an upgraded version of this in your hand and you Dead Man's Hand, which version do you draw from the deck? Did we ever get a response, Hat?
The answer is I forgot to tweet that, so no. It's
let me jump in here real quick. I don't mean to side just because we didn't get an answer, but I want to call out to Blizzard. Blizzard, if you're listening, I hope they are. If you're listening, can we change the word upgrade for a warrior card to something else, like level up or do because when I first read this, I was thinking upgrade, like upgrade a weapon, because I didn't think of a spellstone type card, but again, it's a new card, so I guess we'll get used to it, but it may be a little bit more confusing to those players or even newer players that I don't know, but that's my only call out initially for this.
I don't think there's a whole ton to talk about this, and I know we're already going pretty long on it. It seems like a card that you could play in a Control Warrior deck. It'd be nice if the upgraded version gets shuffled into your deck with Dead Man's Hand. That's kind of what I was asking. If you're doing this Gather Your Party recruit deck with big minions, this is a minion that doesn't count as a minion, so you don't recruit it from your deck. Feels like it could potentially be strong, but I'm kind of skeptical. You guys have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Next card. It's a druid card called Branching Paths, and it says choose twice. Draw a card, give your minions +1 attack, gain 6 armor, cost 4 mana. Shield block? That's what Crip called it. Shield block. Because obviously that's one of the options you can do, but it costs 1 more mana. I don't know. It's one of those cards that's like flexible, but it feels like the 3 options go in 3 different decks, so I don't know how good it's actually going to be.
That's true.
I mean, you say that, but Mark of the Lotus is in Jade Druid now. I think there's something to be said for flexibility here when 4 mana gain 12 armor is real good.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the biggest part of this card, what makes it so good, is the choose option. Yeah. And you're choosing twice. So it adds another card to the choose part of Druid. Druid has so much going on for it.
Wait,
It has ramp. It has
how
Druid,
does
the
Vandal
choosing.
work?
It
Yeah.
doesn't. They
Oh,
answered that on stream.
okay. I don't get all 3.
Nope.
I don't get to draw
That
2
would be
cards and +2 attack and 12 armor.
Yeah, that actually might change my opinion on it. I could definitely see it seeing play, but I could also see it not being powerful enough for the amount of mana that it costs. Because, getting cards out of your hand in Druid already has very powerful draw effects and already has powerful armor gain effects. So unless you really need the flexibility, I don't know that this finds a slot into the decks. But
rhetorical question: Is this something that we're coming to with Hearthstone when we're starting to repurpose cards but make it slightly better for other classes? Just a rhetorical question. Because it feels like even the Rogue Secrets is like a mix of a couple cards that already exist. Like it's we're starting to see some things that are kind of being mixed up. I guess it changes things, and it's nice to see something new, but just something to think about. I don't mean to really comment on it too much, but
I know they said in the stream that they wanted Rogue Secrets. Initially, Rogues had secrets, when the game came out, but they had so much stuff going on with Rogue, they ended up not putting them in. So this seemed like a good place to put it. But so as not to go too long with this, there's a new Paladin card called Level Up. It's 5 mana. Give your Silverhand recruits +2/+2 and taunt. Just kind of seems like a worse Quartermaster because you don't get the body. I could see it seeing play, but I think that I was initially pretty high on the card but then I thought about it a bit more, and I think it's too much work to actually make it good.
How many recruits do you need to be happy with this? If you hit 2, would you be happy?
3. No. Well, it depends on how you get the 2, right? Like, I'm pretty unhappy if I'm playing Lost in the Jungle, then level up, like just getting 2 3/3s with taunt. I just don't see. I don't see a point that
it's high cost.
That you're sticking enough Silverhand recruits where it makes it worth it for a card like this. But I mean, we do have cards like Dry Gulch Jailer, which a lot of people don't seem to like very much. But it's a worse. Wow, I can't remember the card. Yeah, it's a worse muster, but muster for battle was broken. Like that. Well, maybe not super broken, but that card was really good.
Pretty broken. And I mean, Quartermaster was above the power level too. Like that card was a little bit too good, not crazy too good, but in the context of Shielded Minibot, Muster, and Coghammer, right? The cards that you don't see anymore. It's
the only time I see this good is your dudes being already buffed. Like it would make it even better. So
like if you got to get a nice tear him off, and then your Silverhand recruits stick around, and then you get to level them up.
Probably don't need to level though. Like at that point, you've got tear him and a bunch of recruits. It's I think I don't see this card in Wild unless you're already playing 2 Quartermasters and you really want more buff. The taunt has to matter for this card to be special. And making a bunch of 3/3 taunts in a format with Serenade Chain Gang already existing, I don't know. There'd have to be more minion creation cards. And this costs 5.
Yeah.
Or board clears that clear 3/3 is like the dragon.
It's like Dustbreaker, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get excited about this card when a card that costs less than this kills all the things that this helps.
Yeah. All right, next card is the Feral Gibberer. 1 mana, 1/1. After this minion's attacks a hero, add a copy of it to your hand. I think this card is kind of sweet. I saw Sifka tweeted a video about this in Quest Hunter, which I thought was kind of funny. And anything that makes Quest Hunter better, I'm a fan of. Do you have any?
But it has to attack. It has to attack to get it.
It has to attack. I mean, getting it to once it attacks once, then that's it makes it seem like you're going to be able to attack again with it. But getting that first attack off is obviously not the easiest thing to do. Yeah, I'm not sold on it, but it's one of those cards where if you can figure out a way to make sure that it gets its attack off, then it kind of starts getting it can get out of control pretty easily.
My only comment is it looks like a gremlin. Is that what that movie was?
It's
Was
not
it?
quite a
Yeah.
gremlin, it's not quite a tribble, but the second that I can get this card sound on the soundboard, you will be hearing him a lot. Because if you
It does make a great
didn't
sound.
watch the reveal stream, this is by far the funniest card attack sound they've done in a while. Peter Whalen said the voice actors had a ton of fun with it.
All right, we'll go. There's only 2 more cards we'll go over real quick because I don't think they're super interesting. One is Rummaging Kobold. It's a 3-mana 1/3 battle cry. Return one of your destroyed weapons to your hand. This card seems too slow. Doesn't seem like something I want unless, one of the legendary weapons is so good that you need multiple of them. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Anything that I'm missing?
This is the one card I think where it fixes the Ooze Harrison meta where everyone texts in weapon removal. So if you have this in your hand too to kind of guarantee that you get it back after they've already played something to get rid of it, I think it's kind of a weird card, or not weird, but interesting card to add to kind of fix that problem when you're adding a bunch of weapons to the set. Just my quick response.
This card is bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad card. It's a 3-mana spell because the 1/3 body on turn 3 is so insignificant. And if you have more than one weapon and there's a quality difference at all, then if you low roll the card does nothing.
I agree with you. I think it's bad because it just returns it to your hand. Now, if it equipped it again, I think that would be along the lines of something that may be playable.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Okay, so we have actually 2 more cards because Cinder added one to our Kobolds and Catacombs spoilers section. But the first one is Spiteful Summoner, 6-mana 4/4 battlecry. Reveal a spell from your deck. Summon a random minion with the same cost. Seems like it could potentially go in like a mage deck where you have a bunch of expensive spells, but then you have to eschew your cheap spells, and it's probably going to be like a 3-mana spell, getting like revealing a secret or something. Might see play, but I kind of doubt it. What do you think, Kenny?
Well, I don't play much mage too much, as you can tell from earlier, but I'm hoping mage makes a little bit more of a recurrence with some more variety in play because I'd like to play mage more. So, yeah, that's all I'll say.
This is a neutral, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a mage. It just seemed that was the first thing my head went to. Maybe there's like a rogue deck that only plays sprint or something, so you always get a 7-mana minion. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to look at with a card like this. It just doesn't seem like.
I mean,
I don't know.
It has to be better than Faceless Summoner, right? Which is already a pile of stats. 6-mana 5/5, get a 3-drop. You know that's going to be about 9 mana. That's guaranteed 9 mana worth of stats. So this has to hit a 5 or better probably. Because a 6-mana 4/4 is probably on par with 4 mana worth of stats. If you hit a 5, it's probably on par. If you hit a 6 or 7, a 7 I think is pretty likely. It's better. You could build your deck for this to be relevant, but it'd have to be a tempo deck with a lot of expensive spells.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see it until somebody proves me wrong.
Yeah.
All right. So the other card that is somewhat recent, 6-mana 5/4. Looks like a hunter card called Sleeping Oozling. Battlecry.
Seeping Oozling.
Oh, sorry. Seeping Oozling. Battlecry. Gain the death rattle of a random minion in your deck. Okay. So if I just saw this card, so I'm kind of processing it right now.
Kind of defaults back to Death Rattle Hunter, and
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to though. It's in your deck. You just play 2 high mains.
Yeah.
Just play 2 high mains.
But then it's like a worse high, like slightly worse high main because it's the same mana cost.
Sure.
It's the same mana cost. I don't know. Maybe there's something like. Is there any really expensive, like really good death rattle that you want to? That's like, is there any death rattle that's better than a high main's death rattle?
Not that I can think of in Hunter off the top of my head, but it's
Not
you'd
in
have to play
standard.
a more you could play the I don't know if it's better, but you could play
Abominable
the new
Bowman.
legendary.
Yeah.
You can recruit a beast.
And it's not a beast, so
But it can go get a beast.
yeah. No, I'm saying that's like a positive point of it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's brand
It's
new.
the
It's hard
news
to
with
kind
a
of process
scandal.
live.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a value. It'd be a value hunter card. You have to have a reason to have a value hunter card. And in Death Rattle Hunter, this is not actually a Death Rattle, right? Like, it doesn't get cheaper with Corpse Widow. So
Mhm.
this is kind of a Death Rattle Hunter facilitator, but not really a piece of that puzzle. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd need to think about it a lot more. A lot of the Hunter Death Rattles are cheaper, and if you copy those, then it's an understated minion.
Yeah. And also, just like you're saying, like it's another hunter value card, and it's like this seems just worse than the other hunter value cards. So how are you going to fit all of these 6 drops and 8 drops and all these high mana cards? It just doesn't seem like it's going to be able to find room, I wouldn't think. But anyway, that is all the cards we have for this week. I'm
when
looking
we get
for...
to a closer dump of everything, we're probably going to stay away from going over every single card because we don't want to have a super long episode. As much as we get good feedback of everyone saying we love the long episodes and everything, I don't. We kind of want to set ourselves separate from what everyone else may be doing. So we'll play around with it. Give us ideas if you'd like to. Yeah. Anything you guys want to add? Are you on board with that?
I think the idea here is we love talking with the community, we love digesting cards, but after going through the 30th arena common, it's hard for anyone involved to stay engaged. And so we want to be respectful of your time and highlight the cards that stand out to us in positive ways, or cards that we're passionate about that we think are overrated or not as good, or why did they print this? We want to talk about your poison blades and we want to talk about your spirit claws. So we want to make sure that we cover everything in between. It's just a question of making sure how do we make your listening experience as useful and relevant as you can be, and talking about Shallow Gravedigger. How much mental energy do you need to commit to that card? None. Absolutely none. So we're not going to say, let's make a 3-hour episode because we want you to hear about this random arena common. We're going to focus on the cards that we think you really need to think about, and we really want you to think about and share your feedback with us.
Alrighty. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. We don't really have any emails, but if you'd like to send them in, go send it to coinconcede@gmail.com. We're skipping our questions again. It's a longer episode, and let's go through our thank you section, I guess.
But before we do that, Kenny, I have
What
one
am I
thing to ask
missing?
you.
How long can this go on?
Ah,
I was ready for you to play the bumper. I just forgot that was the bumper.
Yep.
All right. So thanks to Stefano for letting us use his cover for our intro and outro. You can check out his music over on his channel, which is linked on our show notes at CoinConcede www.coinconcede.com. I'll get it right eventually one of these days. And there you can find our show notes. You can follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. I already mentioned the email. Facebook.com/CoinConcede. Discord.coinconcede.com. It's surprising how some people forget how to get to our Discord. So easy. Discord.coinconcede.com. And we'll be digesting our thoughts on cards more in depth there than what you may hear in our episodes. So go check that out. Also, we have our merchandise on shop.coinconcede.com. And finally, a big thanks to our producers. We have Iriatis, Sakmapko, Reganis Prime, and Calum CV with Fluffy, which is our most recent one from last week. So
it's
thank you.
fluffy.
It's so fluffy. Oh, what was the sequel? What did she say in that one?
I
don't
didn't
remember.
see
Oh, well.
Despicable Me 2, but I believe there was reference to it.
Yes, there was. I forget it already. Let's go over our shout outs here real quick. I'll start with Bodicus.
All right, so I want to give 2 shout outs this week. The first one is to Andrew over at the Happy Hearthstone. He did a 12-hour stream this last Saturday that we all got to be a part of for an hour. There was a bunch of great content producers that joined him, like the people over at Felon's Chosen and 1600 Dust and Top Deck Kings and so many more. Wicked Good was there too. Just so many great content producers, Iona Kata. And so if you guys want to go check us out, we were the last hour of the stream, and it was a lot of fun. And the other quick shout out I have is to Calum. I did a coaching with him last week where we played some Quest Mage, and we had a sick game where we were playing the Quest Mage mirror, but we didn't know it was the Quest Mage mirror at the start of the game, and so they Cold Light Oracled us early and milled one of our Molten Reflections, and we weren't able to empty our hands, so he Cold Lighted us again and got our other Molten Reflection. And so partway through the game, we hadn't drawn either of our Sorceress Apprentices, and I'm like, do you want to just Simulacrum this Archmage Antonidas? Because it really feels like we're not going to win this. And so we did that, and we just played it one turn when we had very few cards left in our library, and our opponent did not get a random removal spell since Quest Mage doesn't play a lot of them. So we popped his block the next turn with 3 cards left, and then we popped him again with 2 cards, and then one with I guess we popped him with 3 cards, and then we essentially ended the game perfectly, where he did not generate an extra ice block, and we were able to get there despite not actually ever comboing him. And it was just a really fun game to win. So shout out to him. I had a lot of fun that day.
Yeah, it was cool. Just to kind of back off of your shout out for Andrew. If you want to have like a fun time watching stream with the different producers and everything, you go check out his channel, which is Andrew is Living. So go check that out. Hat, why don't you go over your thanks?
Andrew's great. We were all there, all 3 of us, so definitely want to make sure that I reinforce that shout out. But Brasky is a cool dude. He is a production genius and an audio engineer by trade. And on my way home from work, I think it was a couple days ago, actually, while I was editing the most recent episode. He's like, send me the audio. I want to mess with it. And he did, and he made it better. So, Brasky, thank you for spending the day after your 10-hour shift fixing my audio and helping out with that and giving me tips. Super very helpful of you, very generous. I really appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to Pat and Cody, 2 of our patrons, father and son. And they sent us a picture of the granddaughter actually playing Hearthstone with dad and granddad. So, total family affair, really fun to watch and see. They are one of the. I don't know if we have any other patrons that are related. I think we have a couple patrons. But the father and son patron team, and they hang out in each other's coaching sessions. A lot of fun. I'm coaching Cody later tonight, so big props to them. And shout out to Stuffing. Stuffing, you were the reason I look forward to Thanksgiving. We'll be together soon. Don't worry. But it's and also mashed potatoes. Don't feel bad. I got room for you too.
What kind of stuffing is it? The meat stuffing or there's different kinds?
The kind
or all?
It's the kind with the breadcrumbs where they stuff it inside the turkey and cook it in the oven, like the handmade stuff. My aunt's an amazing cook and she makes it every year. So I don't think it's meat stuffing. Like it's stuffed inside the turkey, but it's made from bread mostly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's
the more common of them. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's nothing common about her stuffing. It's all handmade and then like cooked in the bird, and it gets all flavorful, and then you cover it in gravy. Stuffing and football. It's what America's all about.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. And probably over at the in-laws because we can't really travel too much. With my wife is due in 3 weeks now. It's coming along. So I'll give everyone's giving out 2 shout outs. So I'm gonna give a shout out to my wife again. She's a trooper. And then also Esperoth. I coached her this week, and we went 8-0 with the deck. We played Dude Paladin in Wild. She's like, let's give Wild a chance because she was at 24, and she's like, I have a golden vine cleaver I haven't never used. So I was like, throw it in the deck. Let's do this. And we went 8-0 with it, and got her the highest she's ever been in Wild, and tied with her current rank in Standard. So she continued on afterwards and got to 15 with only one loss. So proud of her, and yeah, shout out to her. That does, and again, thank you to Andrew. We love you. Happy Hearthstone. That does it for this week. So contact info real quick here, Bodicus.
So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at BodicusHS, and it would really help if you followed me on Twitch as well. It's twitch.tv/Bodicus. Real quick, I forgot to mention, I did one of my coachings on Mage of Death's stream last night. So anybody who's looking to, is like on the fence about whether they want to get coaching from us or not through the Patreon, you can go watch his replay. He has it, labeled specifically, so you can see what a coaching session would be like with specifically me, and know if that's something you'd be interested in.
Yeah, and also if you're wanting to give Wild a try, or Wild is your thing, definitely hit me up, because I love doing coachings with Wild. I'm trying to make that my thing here on the podcast, if you haven't noticed already. Hat, what about you?
You can find me on twitter.com/ridiculoushat. You can find me on twitch.tv/ridiculoushat. I stream Mondays and Thursdays. Going to try and stream this Thursday. It is Thanksgiving, so you might, instead of Twitch, find me passed out on the couch full of turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes, as previously discussed. And if you at me in Discord, pretty much any Hearthstone Discord, I will respond to you as soon as I am able.
All right. And me, I'm on Twitter at KCCO_gamer. You can find me there. Don't really Twitch, but I'm there and hang out with certain Twitch. I may go check out Ziggy afterwards. And that does it for our show. Let's head out of here. It was plenty long. So I'll leave you. Keep calm and chive on. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory.
You win. I can rest now. You win. For now. Now, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.
I choose death. You have triumphed. This time, this hunt is yours.